The rain had stopped an hour ago, but the highway still looked wet enough to remember it. Under the scattered glow of old roadside lamps, the asphalt stretched through the dark like a ribbon of black glass, reflecting headlights, neon signs, and the occasional flash of distant lightning still grumbling somewhere beyond the mountains. It was the kind of night that made people drive faster than they should, think less than they ought to, and pray only when they had already run out of choices. No one expected a girl in a torn white sweater to come running out of the woods at mile marker 47. And no one expected the man on the Harley to be the one who stopped. The first thing Gabriel Rains noticed was movement. Not a deer. Not a dog. Human. He was leaning into a long curve on his black Road King, engine steady beneath him, when something pale burst from the tree line and stumbled into the shoulder of the highway. He braked hard on instinct, tires hissing against wet pavement as the bike slowed with a violent growl. In his mirror, 2 trucks thundered past in the far lane, oblivious. By the time he pulled onto the gravel shoulder and swung one heavy boot down, the girl had collapsed to her knees 10 yards ahead of him, both hands raised like she was trying to surrender to the dark itself. Gabriel killed the engine. Silence hit with almost physical force. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then he heard her. "Please," she choked out, her voice shredded raw. "Please. I'm not lying." It was such a strange thing to say first that it stopped him colder than fear would have. Most people begged for help. For an ambulance. For someone to call the police. They cried, screamed, collapsed, pointed to blood, to pain, to danger. This girl came out of the woods with terror in her eyes and chose those words. "Please. I'm not lying." Gabriel stayed where he was, helmet still on, body angled slightly toward her. He had spent too many years learning not to rush toward chaos without understanding its shape. On the road, hesitation could get you killed. So could kindness. The girl looked no older than 22. Maybe younger in some angles, older in others. Fear does that to a face. It stretches time across it. Her dark hair was tangled with leaves and mud, her sweater was torn near the collarbone, and one sleeve was soaked in something darker than rain. Dirt streaked her cheek. Her breathing came in ragged bursts that made her shoulders jump. She looked less like someone escaping a simple accident and more like someone who had been hunted. Gabriel removed his gloves slowly. "Who's after you?" he asked. Her eyes widened at the sound of his voice, deep, low, rough with road dust and old cigarettes. He watched her take him in properly for the first time, the broad frame, the cut over the leather jacket, the black beard, the scar that cut through one eyebrow, the heavy boots, the motorcycle waiting behind him like a machine built for bad decisions. Most people made a judgment in less than 2 seconds when they saw him. Dangerous. She did too. He saw it happen. But desperation outweighed it. "Please," she said again, trying to stand and failing. "They're coming back." Gabriel's gaze shifted automatically to the tree line behind her. Wet branches. Shadow. No headlights cutting through. No voices. No movement he could catch. Just the sound of distant highway wind and water still dripping from pine needles. "Who?" She shook her head too fast, almost dizzy from it. "If I tell you, you won't believe me." Gabriel's expression didn't change. "Try me." A broken laugh escaped her, small, disbelieving, nearly hysterical. "That's exactly what everyone says before they look at me like I'm insane." He stepped closer, just enough to see her injuries more clearly. Bruising rising near the throat. Scratches along both palms. Blood on the left sleeve, though not enough to tell whether it was hers. One shoe missing. Ankles shaking from cold and shock. Whatever had happened, it hadn't started on this roadside. It had been building for hours. "Can you walk?" he asked. She looked toward the woods as if expecting something to lunge out at any second. "I don't know." "That's not an answer." Her eyes snapped back to his. I know. The sharpness in her voice surprised both of them. She flinched immediately after, like she expected anger in return. Gabriel merely held her stare. Then she whispered, "I'm sorry." He crouched finally, bringing himself closer to eye level without quite relaxing the tension in his shoulders. "You hit your head." "I don't think so." "You think someone's chasing you?" "I know they are." He studied her for one long second. "Who are they?" Her lower lip trembled, not like a child's, but like someone holding back a larger collapse through sheer force. "My husband," she said. "And his brother." Something dark and immediate settled in Gabriel's chest. Not because of the words alone. Because of the way she said husband, as if the title itself had become a weapon. His eyes flicked once more to the trees. "How far behind?" "I don't know. I ran when the truck stopped. I heard them yelling. I fell down a slope. I think I lost them for a few minutes, but—" Her voice broke. "Please. I'm not lying. I know how this sounds." Gabriel stood again. He knew exactly how it sounded. Like a domestic gone bad. Like a frightened woman on the side of the highway saying all the right things to make a stranger intervene. Like a trap, if you'd lived long enough to know traps could wear bruises too. And yet, he had also lived long enough to recognize certain things that liars rarely got right. The bruising wasn't theatrical. The mud on the knees was fresh. The fear was too physically rooted. Real fear lives in the hands, the eyes, the way a person checks shadows even while speaking. And there was one more thing. Something less visible, more instinctive. She was not trying to control the story. She was trying to survive it. "What's your name?" he asked. She swallowed. "Nora." "Last name?" "Weller." "His?" A pause. Then, "Hale." "Nora Hale." Gabriel nodded once, filing it away. His own name was known in enough counties to create trouble by itself, but he didn't offer it yet. Names were leverage. He wanted hers before he gave his. "You have a phone?" She shook her head. He smashed it. "Anyone know where you are?" Again, that tiny broken laugh. "I barely know where I am." "Fair enough." Gabriel looked back at his bike, then at the road stretching in either direction. There was a gas station 8 miles north and a truck stop another 12 beyond that. The nearest sheriff's substation was farther. Too far if two men were circling back through the woods already angry and armed with ownership. Nora followed his eyes and understood enough to panic again. "You're leaving." It wasn't an accusation. It was worse. It was resignation. Gabriel looked at her. "No." The word hit her like confusion. "What?" "I said no." He walked back to the bike, pulled the small emergency kit from one saddlebag, and returned. Nora watched him like she still wasn't sure whether he was helping her or arranging the scene before changing his mind. "Let me see your arm." She hesitated. He waited. Very slowly, she extended the bloodied sleeve. He peeled the fabric back just enough to inspect the injury. A cut, long but shallow, likely from brush or broken glass. Angry. Bleeding. Not fatal. He wrapped gauze around it efficiently while she winced and tried not to make sound. "You do this a lot?" she asked softly. "No. You seem like you do." He tied off the bandage. "I've seen enough." That answer clearly raised more questions than it settled, but she was too exhausted to chase them. From somewhere deep in the woods came a sound. A shout. Too far away to make out words. Close enough to matter. Nora went white. They found the road. Gabriel straightened in one smooth motion and listened. Another sound. Branches breaking. Male voices now, angry and searching. The biker's face changed very slightly, not in fear, not in panic, but in the narrowing focus of a man whose body had just moved from possibility into decision. He grabbed the spare helmet from the back of the bike and shoved it toward her. "Put that on." She stared at him. "What? Now?" Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped it. Gabriel took the helmet, secured it on her head himself with brutal speed, then caught her under the elbow and hauled her upright. Pain flashed across her face. She stumbled. "I can't." "Yes, you can." The voices came again, closer. One of them shouted a name. Nora froze. Gabriel heard it too. Nora. Not fear now. Fury. Possession. He turned her toward the bike. "Get on." She looked at the motorcycle like it was insanity made of metal. "I've never. Tonight's a bad night for firsts." He swung a leg over, kicked the engine alive, and the bike roared like something waking angry. Nora flinched hard enough to nearly fall backward. The voices in the woods shifted direction instantly. They had heard the engine. Gabriel glanced over his shoulder. "If they get to this shoulder before you're on, I leave you here. Understood?" Her eyes widened in horror. He leaned closer, voice cutting through the engine growl. "I'm not being cruel. I'm telling you what the road is. Choose fast." That did it. She climbed on. Awkwardly. Fearfully. One shoe, torn sweater, bruised throat and all. Her hands hovered uncertainly near his sides, not quite touching. "Hold on," he said. "I don't want to." "Then fall off." "Your choice." She grabbed him. Too tight. Trembling. Real. Gabriel dropped the clutch and the Harley lunged forward just as two men burst from the tree line behind them. Nora screamed. Gabriel didn't look back until they hit the road properly. When he did, he caught only a snapshot in the mirror, one man broad and dark-haired, one leaner, both shouting, one raising an arm as if to wave them down or throw something. Then they were gone behind curve and darkness. The highway opened in front of them. Nora's grip stayed locked around his ribs hard enough to bruise. For the next 10 miles, neither of them spoke. The engine filled everything. Wind tore at her clothes. Wet road flashed beneath them in silver-black stretches. Gabriel rode fast but not wild, choosing long lines through curves, checking mirrors every few seconds. No truck headlights gained on them. No pickup with furious high beams appeared. If the men behind them had a vehicle, it wasn't close enough yet. Good. Nora kept expecting him to stop. At the next exit. At the gas station. At some dark turnout where he would tell her this was far enough, where her story had become too complicated, too ugly, too dangerous for a stranger to hold. Instead he rode past the gas station. Past the truck stop. Past the turnoff toward the county substation. Only when the mountains gave way to a narrower 2-lane road lined with pine and old fencing did he finally slow. Nora lifted her head slightly. "Where are we going?" Gabriel answered without looking back. "Home." The word hit her like another shock. "I don't know you." "True. That doesn't scare you." He turned onto a gravel road with practiced ease. "Should it?" She didn't know how to answer that. A minute later the trees broke open around a low house set back from the road. Not large. Not grand. Just quiet. Dark wood siding. A deep front porch. One dim light burning above the steps. A detached garage. The silhouettes of 2 other motorcycles parked near the side. The kind of place built more for distance than display. Gabriel killed the engine. Nora didn't let go immediately. When she finally did, her fingers had stiffened from cold and fear. He got off first, then turned and offered a hand. She stared at it for half a beat before taking it. Her legs nearly folded when she dismounted. He caught her weight automatically. The porch light opened before they reached the steps. A woman in her late 50s stood framed in the doorway, shotgun in hand, gray hair in a braid, expression carved from skepticism. She took in the scene in one glance. Gabriel. Midnight. Frightened girl. Blood. Missing shoe. Then she lowered the barrel. "Well," she said, voice dry as old cedar, "that usually means trouble." Gabriel answered, "Martha, this is Nora." Martha's eyes moved to the girl properly now. Whatever she saw there made the last edge of suspicion shift into something grimmer. "Come inside," she said. Nora stepped across the threshold like someone crossing out of one life and into another without any guarantee the new one would last till morning. The house smelled like coffee, wood smoke, and something savory left warming too long on the stove. It was clean in a practical way, lived in without apology. A folded quilt over the couch. Boots by the mudroom. Framed photographs on the mantel turned just enough away that she couldn't read the faces yet. A dog bed near the fireplace, empty for the moment. No children's toys. No clutter of a family. Just ordered silence. Martha set the shotgun by the wall and moved toward Nora with the calm efficiency of someone who had seen broken people before and knew panic was wasted motion. "You need stitches?" I don't know. We'll start with hot water and figure it out." Gabriel removed his jacket and hung it by the door. Underneath he wore a plain dark Henley stretched over shoulders built by labor more than vanity. There was ink on his forearm. A scar near the collarbone. The kind of details Nora would have found threatening an hour ago and still did, in some distant, rational part of herself. But proximity to greater danger changes the scale of fear. Right now, this house and this man and this armed older woman felt like shelter even if she didn't understand why. Martha guided her to the kitchen chair. "Sit." Nora sat. Her body began shaking in earnest only then, once the woods and the road were no longer directly around her. Shock is patient. It waits till walls exist. Gabriel poured a glass of water and set it down in front of her. She looked up. "Why did you pass the sheriff's exit?" His eyes met hers. Then, after a beat, "Because if what you're saying is true, and they are who I think they are, the sheriff wouldn't keep you alive long enough to write it down." Cold slid through her even deeper than before. "You know them." It wasn't a question anymore. Gabriel leaned against the counter. "I know the family." Nora's fingers tightened around the glass. Her husband, Daniel Hale, came from money that preferred to dress itself like respectability. Construction contracts. Land deals. Quiet political donations. His older brother, Wesley, was worse in every way wealth makes possible, smarter about image, crueler in private, and too connected to be easily touched. Nora had spent 11 months inside that family and learned the difference between what people feared publicly and what they enabled privately. Now the biker in front of her was telling her he knew them. "Then you know I'm not lying," she whispered. Something unreadable crossed his face. Martha, dabbing antiseptic onto the cut on Nora's arm, muttered, "He knew before he asked." Nora looked between them. Gabriel straightened, pushed off the counter, and went to the hallway table near the kitchen. He picked up a landline phone, an actual corded phone, heavy and old-fashioned, and dialed from memory. He waited. Then, "It's me. Wake Aaron. Tell him no one rides alone tonight." A pause. "No, not the club. Not yet." His gaze flicked once toward Nora. "I said not yet." Another pause. "Because a Hale girl just ran out of the woods bleeding, and if Daniel or Wesley touch this road before dawn, I want to know before the tires cool." He hung up. Nora stared. "The club," she said. Gabriel turned toward her fully now. Under the kitchen light, she could see him more clearly than she had on the roadside. The heavy ring on one hand. The old road scars. The stillness that seemed less like calm and more like something tightly leashed. The leather cut by the door had a patch on the back. She had only caught part of it when he took it off, but now she understood what she had already half suspected. Motorcycle club. Not a drifter. Not just a biker. Something bigger. Something organized. Something her husband had once warned her never, ever to get mixed up with. Which suddenly explained a lot. "Who are you?" she asked. Gabriel held her gaze. "My name is Gabriel Rains," he said. "And if Daniel Hale finds this house before morning, your life is going to become everybody's problem." Nora should have been more afraid of that answer. Instead, for the first time since she had run into the highway, she felt the smallest, most dangerous spark of hope. Because men like Daniel Hale only feared two things: exposure. And other men with more teeth than his money could buy. Martha wrapped the bandage tight and said, without looking up, "Now the real trouble starts." Nora believed her. And somewhere out on the wet roads beyond the house, engines were already waking in the dark. Nora didn't sleep. Not really. Her body tried, exhaustion dragged her down in heavy waves, but every time she drifted too far, something snapped her back. A sound. A memory. The echo of Daniel's voice in the woods, sharp with anger and ownership. The image of headlights cutting through trees. The moment she slipped on wet leaves and thought she wouldn't get up again. So she sat on the edge of the bed Martha had made for her in the spare room, wrapped in a thick blanket that smelled faintly of cedar and laundry soap, staring at the window as if it might suddenly fill with faces. The house was quiet. Too quiet for someone who had spent the last year inside tension that never fully went away. Daniel's house had been large, immaculate, and suffocating. Silence there had meant control, watching, listening, calculating. Every word measured. Every movement noticed. Wesley's visits had made it worse. He never raised his voice. He didn't need to. His calm was sharper than Daniel's anger. Here, the silence felt different. Not empty. Guarded. She noticed it around 2 in the morning. A low rumble in the distance. At first she thought it was thunder rolling through the mountains again. Then it came closer. Not one engine. Several. Nora stood slowly and moved toward the window, careful not to make the floorboards creak. She parted the curtain just enough to see the gravel road beyond the trees. Headlights. Then more. Motorcycles. They didn't rush in. They didn't roar like chaos. They arrived deliberately. One by one. Then in pairs. Then in groups. Men stepping off bikes in the cold dark, their silhouettes cutting through the porch light as they moved without urgency but with purpose. No shouting. No confusion. Just presence. She counted at least 12 before she lost track. And still more came. A chill ran through her, not entirely fear this time. Something else. Something heavier. Gabriel hadn't called the police. He had called them. She let the curtain fall. Back in the kitchen, the light was still on. Martha sat at the table with a mug of coffee, as if she had been awake for hours and had no intention of changing that. She didn't look surprised when Nora entered. "Couldn't sleep?" Martha asked. Nora shook her head. Martha gestured toward the chair across from her. "Sit." Nora sat. She wrapped her hands around the mug Martha pushed toward her, not even noticing when it appeared. The heat helped. Grounded her. "They're here because of me," Nora said quietly. Martha sipped her coffee. "They're here because of him." Nora glanced toward the hallway where Gabriel had disappeared earlier. "What does that mean?" Martha studied her over the rim of the mug. "It means when Gabriel Rains makes a call like that, men who trust him don't ask questions first. They show up." Nora swallowed. "That doesn't scare you?" Martha set the mug down. Everything should scare you right now, girl. The question is what kind of fear keeps you alive? Nora didn't answer. She wasn't sure she knew anymore. The front door opened then. Cold air slipped in with the sound of boots on wood. Gabriel stepped inside, followed by two other men. One tall and broad with a shaved head and a scar running from ear to jaw. The other leaner, older, eyes sharp and constantly moving. They stopped when they saw Nora at the table. The silence shifted. Not hostile. Assessing. Gabriel spoke first. This is Nora. The shaved-head man nodded once. Name's Aaron. The older one didn't offer his. Just gave a brief look that lingered a second longer than comfortable, then moved past them toward the coffee. Aaron leaned one hip against the counter, arms folded. You said hail. Gabriel nodded. Aaron's jaw tightened. That changes things. I know. Nora felt their eyes flick back to her, measuring not just who she was, but what she represented. Trouble. Real trouble. Aaron spoke again, quieter this time. You sure about this? Gabriel's answer was immediate. Yeah. That seemed to settle something. Aaron nodded once more. Then we're in. Nora blinked. Just like that. No negotiation. No hesitation. Her chest tightened. Why? She asked before she could stop herself. All three men looked at her. Aaron raised an eyebrow. Why what? Why help me? The older man at the coffee let out a short breath that might have been a laugh without humor. Because you showed up bleeding at his door, he said. That's usually enough. Gabriel didn't speak. But his silence said more. Nora shook her head slightly. You don't even know me. Aaron shrugged. We know enough. That's not how the world works. Aaron gave her a look, one that held something between pity and amusement. Depends on the world. Martha pushed back her chair. Enough talking. She needs rest, not philosophy. But Nora wasn't done. Daniel won't stop, she said, voice tightening. You don't understand. Gabriel cut in, calm but firm. I do. No, you don't. That earned his full attention. Her hands trembled again, but this time it wasn't just fear. It was urgency. He doesn't lose, she said. Ever. Not in business. Not in anything. And Wesley. She swallowed hard. Wesley doesn't care who gets hurt as long as they stay in control. The room went still. Aaron exchanged a glance with Gabriel. The older man at the counter set his mug down slowly. Nora pressed on. They won't go to the police. They won't make noise. They'll just fix it. Quietly. Gabriel stepped closer. How long? He asked. What? How long have you been trying to get out? The question hit her harder than she expected. She hesitated. Then, months. Why now? Her eyes dropped to the table. Because tonight, it wasn't just yelling anymore. Silence. Heavy. Final. Gabriel nodded once. That was all. No sympathy. No shock. Just understanding. And something darker beneath it. He turned to Aaron. We move her before daylight. Aaron nodded. Already thinking the same. Nora's head snapped up. Move me where? Somewhere they won't look first, Gabriel said. They'll look everywhere. Not everywhere at once. That's not reassuring. It's not supposed to be. The bluntness almost made her laugh. Almost. Outside, another engine rolled into the gravel. The older man glanced toward the door. More are here. Aaron pushed off the counter. I'll get them settled. He headed out without another word. Nora watched him go, then turned back to Gabriel. This is crazy. Yeah. You're risking a lot. I know. For someone you just met. Gabriel held her gaze. You ran out of the woods and told me the truth, he said. That's more than most people manage in a lifetime. The words landed somewhere deep. Too deep. Nora looked away. Because she wasn't used to being believed. Not without proof. Not without argument. Not without consequences. And somehow, that made this more frightening than anything else. Get some sleep, Gabriel said. I can't. Try. She shook her head. He studied her for a moment, then walked to the cabinet and pulled out a small bottle. He set it on the table. Half of one, he said. No more. She stared at it. You trust me that much? Gabriel's answer came without hesitation. Enough. That should have scared her. Instead, she picked up the bottle. An hour later, exhaustion finally won. She woke to movement. Not loud. Not chaotic. Organized. Voices low. Boots crossing the floor. The kind of controlled activity that meant something was already in motion. Sunlight was just beginning to break through the trees outside when she stepped into the hallway. The house felt different. Tighter. Ready. Gabriel stood near the door, pulling on his cut. Aaron was beside him, speaking quietly into a phone. The older man, still unnamed, checked something in a duffel bag on the table. Martha handed Nora a jacket. Put this on. Nora obeyed without question. What's happening? She asked. Gabriel looked at her. They found your car. Her stomach dropped. Where? About 3 miles south of where you came out of the woods. Too close. Way too close. They know I got out. Yeah. And now they're looking. Gabriel nodded. Aaron ended his call. 2 trucks heading north from the logging road. Could be them. Could be nothing. It's them, Nora said immediately. No one argued. Gabriel stepped closer to her. Listen carefully, he said. We're leaving in 2 minutes. You stay on the bike. You don't let go. You don't panic. Whatever happens, you don't run unless I tell you to. Understood? Her heart hammered. Where are we going? Somewhere safer. That's not an answer. It's the only one you need right now. Outside, engines started. Not one. Many. Nora stepped onto the porch and froze. There were more than before. Dozens now. Bikes lined along the gravel, men standing beside them, helmets in hand, watching, waiting. Not chaos. Formation. Protection. The realization hit her all at once. This wasn't just help. This was a line being drawn. Gabriel swung onto his bike and looked at her. Get on. She did. Faster this time. No hesitation. Her hands wrapped around him, tighter than before. Because now she understood something she hadn't fully grasped in the night. This wasn't just about escaping Daniel. This was about surviving what came after. The engines roared to life. And as the first wave of bikes pulled out onto the road, Nora held on with everything she had. Because behind them, somewhere in the trees and roads of Mercy Creek, men who did not accept loss were already coming. And ahead of them. She didn't know yet. But for the first time since she ran into the highway, she believed one thing. Gabriel Rains wasn't going to let her go back. The road split just past the old mill. Most people in Mercy Creek never took the left turn anymore. The bridge that once connected it to the main county route had been closed years ago after a storm chewed through its supports, leaving only a narrow back path that twisted through the pines and came out miles away near an abandoned quarry. That was exactly why Gabriel took it. The bikes peeled off in controlled formation, not all at once, but in waves. Some continued straight, engines carrying forward like a distraction. Others slowed, circled, disappeared into side trails only locals or riders would know. Nora clung to Gabriel's jacket, her cheek pressed against his back, eyes squeezed shut against the wind and the fear that refused to loosen its grip. Behind them, somewhere unseen, danger was still moving. She could feel it. Even without hearing engines, even without seeing headlights. Fear has memory. And hers was still fresh. The gravel path rattled beneath the tires as they cut deeper into the trees. The sound of the main road faded until all that remained was the low growl of engines and the whisper of wind through branches. After 10 minutes, Gabriel slowed. After 15, he stopped. The clearing ahead opened suddenly, wide and empty except for an old warehouse structure, metal siding rusted, windows boarded, doors reinforced. It didn't look like much, but the way the riders moved around it told a different story. This place mattered. Nora slid off the bike, legs shaky but stronger than the night before. She looked around. Where are we? Gabriel removed his helmet. Safe. She exhaled, almost laughing. You keep saying that. Because you keep needing to hear it. Before she could answer, engines echoed again, this time from another direction. Nora froze. Gabriel didn't. He turned, eyes scanning the tree line, body already shifting. Aaron stepped forward, hand resting near his belt. The older man, still silent, still watching, moved to the side of the warehouse door. The riders around them adjusted without panic. Ready. Waiting. Then the trucks appeared. 2 of them. Black. Fast. Cutting through the dirt road with no attempt to hide. Nora's breath caught in her throat. They found us. Gabriel's voice was calm. Yeah. The truck stopped just short of the clearing. Doors opened. Daniel Hale stepped out first. Even from a distance, Nora felt it, the same cold control, the same presence that had filled every room he walked into. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't frantic. He was angry in the quietest, most dangerous way. Wesley stepped out behind him. Leaner. Sharper. Smiling. That was worse. Nora took a step back without realizing it. Gabriel noticed. He didn't touch her. He didn't need to. I'm here, he said. Simple. Solid. Daniel's gaze locked onto Nora immediately. There you are. Her stomach twisted. Every instinct told her to run. But there was nowhere left to run to. And for the first time, she didn't. Daniel took a few steps forward, stopping just at the edge of the clearing. His eyes flicked over the riders. Measured. Unimpressed. You picked the wrong place to hide, he said. Gabriel stepped forward to meet him. No, he replied evenly. You picked the wrong place to come. Silence dropped hard between them. Wesley chuckled softly, stepping beside his brother. We're not here for a fight. Gabriel didn't react. Good, he said. Because you'd lose. That wiped the smile from Wesley's face. Daniel's jaw tightened. This isn't your business, Daniel said. Gabriel tilted his head slightly. It is now. Daniel's gaze shifted back to Nora. Come here, he said. It sounded like a command. Like always. For a second, her body almost obeyed out of habit. Then she stopped. Something inside her, something small, fragile, and buried under months of fear, finally pushed back. No. The word barely left her lips. But it was enough. Daniel's expression changed. Not anger. Not yet. Disbelief. Don't do this, he said quietly. You don't understand what you're walking into. Nora's hands trembled. But she didn't move. I understand more than you think. Wesley laughed again, sharper this time. You think these people can protect you? Nora looked at Gabriel. Then at the riders around her. Then back at Wesley. Yes. That was the moment everything shifted. Daniel's patience broke. Enough. He stepped forward again, faster now. And Gabriel moved. One step. That was all it took. But it changed the entire space. Because suddenly, Daniel wasn't facing a frightened woman. He was facing a man who didn't move out of the way. The tension snapped tight. Aaron shifted. The riders behind them adjusted, subtle but unmistakable. A line had been drawn. Daniel saw it. And for the first time, he hesitated. Wesley noticed too. His eyes flicked across the clearing, counting. Noticing the number of bikes. The positions. The lack of fear. This wasn't a bluff. This wasn't a random act of kindness. This was something organized. Something willing. Something dangerous. Daniel exhaled slowly. This isn't over, he said. Gabriel's voice stayed level. It is for you. A long silence followed. Then. Daniel stepped back. Just once. But it was enough. Wesley's smile didn't return. The two men turned, walked back to their trucks, and drove off without another word. No threats. No shouting. Just quiet retreat. Nora didn't realize she had stopped breathing until the engines disappeared. Her knees almost gave out. Gabriel caught her this time. Not rough. Not distant. Steady. It's done, he said. She shook her head, tears finally breaking free. No, people like them, they don't just. They do, Gabriel said. When the cost gets too high. She looked at him. At the riders. At the space those trucks had just left. And slowly. She understood. This wasn't about winning. It was about making sure Daniel couldn't afford to keep playing. Her voice broke. Why? Gabriel frowned slightly. Why what? Why help me like this? He held her gaze. For a moment, it seemed like he might not answer. Then he said quietly. Because you told the truth when it mattered. The simplicity of it shattered her more than anything else had. No conditions. No expectations. Just that. Nora covered her face, shoulders shaking. For the first time in months. She wasn't afraid of what came next. Weeks later, Mercy Creek looked the same. The same roads. The same stores. The same quiet routines. But for Nora, everything had changed. She stood outside the small cafe on Main Street, holding a cup of coffee she had paid for herself. No fear. No one watching. No voice in the back of her head telling her she didn't belong. Across the street, a motorcycle engine rumbled. She turned. Gabriel sat on his bike, watching. Not guarding. Not controlling. Just there. A choice. She walked over. You're still checking on me, she said. Sometimes. You don't have to. I know. She smiled slightly. That felt new. Then why do you? Gabriel thought about it for a second. Then shrugged. Habit. She laughed softly. Silence settled between them again, but this time, it was easy. Not heavy. Not tense. Just quiet. Nora looked down the road, then back at him. I wasn't lying, she said. Gabriel nodded once. I know. She held his gaze. Thank you. He didn't answer right away. Then. Live better, he said. That's enough. She nodded. And for the first time since the night she ran out of the woods. She believed she could. Gabriel started the engine. The bike rumbled to life beneath him. He gave her one last look. Then rode off down the road. Nora watched until the sound faded. And when it did, she didn't feel alone. Because somewhere out there, she knew one thing for certain. The moment she said, "Please. I'm not lying," someone had listened. And it changed her life forever.